Hey friends, it's Joy here. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you guys for stopping by. I have two amazing cards for you today. This is a new release from Spellbinders. It's the Anemone Blooms by Yana, and her stuff is so elegant and beautiful. So I had to pull out my inner Yana to make these two cards for you today. We did some hot foiling and some die cutting, and they turned out stunning. I did like a semi tone on tone, and I say semi because I brought in a little bit of white, but for the most part it feels like it's a tone on tone kind of card. Well, both of them are. So I'm going to show those to you guys really quick. This is my favorite, of course. Make sure it's not all blurry, but look at that. I love that teal color. So this is die cutting, and then this one is like apricot. It's like a peachy kind of color, which I love, and this is the hot foil one. So now that you've seen them, I know you're going to want to make them, so let's get going on it. So I really love this collection. This is the Anemone Bloom collection from Yana through Spellbinders, and you guys, it is so stunning. Like I showed you those cards at the beginning, they are so beautiful. So I'm going to start with the Anemones Etched dies. So you're going to have two die pieces with this. I am cutting with the first one, which is going to cut out basically the outline and like all of your little insert pieces for the flowers. I am die cutting this twice from Glimmer cardstock from Cardstock Warehouse because I need two flowers. Then you have the other piece at the top right there on the screen. That's like the shadow piece essentially, that we will be using that as well. So I need to keep all of the little flower pieces when I die cut from white cardstock. I am die cutting from Nina cardstock, and I need to keep all those pieces in place because I want to be able to color them easily. I think if they are all popped out, you have to kind of know which order they go in to color it to make sure that it makes sense with the flower, the look of the flower. So I'm going to carefully flip this over once I die cut it. So this is the back side. My die is still underneath. I'm using some low tack tape. This is Memo tape from Hefty Duel, and it is super low tack. I put that in place to keep those pieces in place, and then I'm gently pulling that die cut off of the top. So I'm using Copic markers, and I love a teal color. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, these are like tone on tone essentially. And so I am using Copics in BG 75, 76, and BG 10. Now, I use BG 10 a lot, but 75 and 76, I don't use a ton. And I definitely am going to because this is gorgeous. So I think I use the BG 75 for the darker color at the base of the petals. And then I'm using BG 10 to blend it out, but I'm leaving the top of the petals white. I did this in another video just recently for the club kits, and for some reason I just like the way that looks right now. It just gives a really soft, light feel that the whole flower is not completely covered. So I'm just finding all of those petals at the base of the petals, again using that darker color BG 75, and then coming back in with that BG 10, blending that out and going up just a little bit further. And look at how pretty this is already. This turned out so stunning. And then with the gold mirror cardstock as the frame, these are some of my favorite cards. Now I talked about that shadow piece. We're going to die cut that from Vellum and put behind this to give it a nice like softer look instead of having like a solid white piece behind it. Now here's that BG 76 for the centers of the flowers, and it's okay if you like color outside the lines because you're going to be popping these little pieces out anyways. And I don't need to color the leaves because those are going to be solid gold mirror cardstock. So here's the vellum pieces. I need two of those of that solid, I'm calling it a shadow die cut because essentially it sticks out further than this the actual flower part of the die. And I'm going to use it on the Stamp Markets. Oh, it's a teal cardstock, and I can't remember the name right now. I think it might be called Island, but that is listed and linked for you below, along with everything else I used in this project. I'm using some Barely Art glue and my reverse tweezers, and I'm going to adhere the outline piece to the vellum piece, and then we can start adhering all of the different little petals and things like that into this. And when you do, it is so, so pretty, you guys. This is really easy to put together, and it is absolutely stunning. So let me get this second one on here. And I do have another card, so definitely hang around for that because you're going to want to see what I do to the background of that. It's super simple and super cute. Well, it's really pretty to go along with the foiling that we're going to be doing, because we are going to be doing hot foil. Now I'm going to flip that colored one back over and gently pull off as best as I can that low tack tape. Some of those pieces did fall out, but that's okay. And then I'm just using this side as my reference for where all of the petals go. I'm just going to add some dots of liquid glue from the Bearly Art. I've got my Crystal Katana embellishment wand that is helping me put those in place. And I already did one of them. This is the second one that I did because I got a better rhythm. That first one, I don't know what my deal was, but I felt like I was on the struggle bus for sure. So some of these that didn't pop out, I can just kind of line up and kind of put in place, which is what I did here, because they're already stuck in the cardstock, and then the ones that fell out, I just put back in there. But look at how this is coming to life. I just think it's so pretty. So again, I'm going to lay that over the top, line it up with where it's supposed to line up with, and just push those pieces down and pop them right into place. And hopefully that glue will grab onto it. And if not, I can just kind of slide it around and get it into place. We've got a few more pieces here. I just wanted to show you the whole process of this. It really is quick for the most part and super easy. Much easier this way than I think if you had just dumped all the pieces out and then trying to figure out where they go. I don't like puzzles, so to me that would be a nightmare. Okay, let's get to the foiling. We have to foil our sentiment. Of course, I'm using some Aura foil because it is my favorite. And I'm using the foil trimmer, even though that's not what it's called, and I never remember what it's called. But I'm using that from Spellbinders to trim down a piece of foil. We are going to use the sentiment. I believe this is the Hello Friend Sentiments Hot Foil Plates. This says wonderful. And I love the script that Yana has picked out for her products. It's so stunning. So I'm trying to line this up good. I've got my strip of hot foil, and I do have this on a hinge just in case it doesn't foil correctly. And this again is on the Stamp Markets. I think again it's called Island Cardstock, but don't hold me to it. I'm gonna get that nice and heated up. I can pull it out of the docking station. I added an extra shim because this is thinner cardstock. So I added an extra shim of paper in my plates. I ran this through my die cut machine. Fingers crossed, I peeled it back and it foiled perfectly. And it is so, so pretty on this cardstock. Don't you guys think? I love it. Now I have the other little sentiment that says you are, actually it says you are a wonderful. You know, I need to probably finish that, and I could I did not realize that till right now, you guys. I am cracking up. Anyways, I'm trying to center that in here, and I'm going to tape that in place. I need to put the word friend on the inside of my card. So you are a wonderful, and then friend should go on the inside, and you will see that die cut sentiment in a second. And I was struggling to get this thing lined up. I finally pulled out my ruler, my little tiny ruler, so I can get it nice and straight. But I am dying over here that I totally forgot to finish with the sentiment. But I would put that on the inside. For some reason, I think I was reading it, you are wonderful, but now I'm like, that's not what that says. This was like the 5th or 6th card I made in this one day, and my brain was tired apparently. Okay, let's add some foil under here. It's nice and straight. I used my ruler. Again, I'm going to do the same thing of running it through my die cut machine. Let's pop this back into the docking station and peel that back, and it came out so, so pretty. And we're going to add these flowers all the way around it and kind of snuggle that sentiment in. So I want these popped up with foam tape. You guys know I love dimension, and I want to get as much of the flowers on here as possible, but I do need to trim some off because I do need another little piece for that bottom right corner. So I'm going to add some of this little pieces of foam tape to like the leaf area, making sure I get all those little spots, and then I can line that up. And I'm just kind of feeling all over it to make sure nothing is like gonna press down when you mail it, if that makes sense. Everything's got some foam tape underneath. So let's put that in place, getting it at the right angle. It takes me 12 times. Okay, let's do this second one. I'm going to do the same thing, and we will trim off the excess, which almost makes me so sad because it's so pretty. But I promise it will look fantastic. This whole teal sheet in the back, teal card panel is an A2 size. So it's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So let's finish adding this foam tape, and then let's put this one in place. Let's trim the excess off and add one more little piece again to that bottom right corner. This always gives me a little bit of anxiety. I'm always terrified I'm gonna do something weird and cut wonky or something after all that hard work. But look at how pretty that turned out. I love that. And this little piece right here is going to be perfect to snuggle in around that part of the sentiment. And as you can see, what I was talking about, you know, basically like the tone on tone, with the exception of a little bit of white. Add another little piece of foam tape. I just used my reverse tweezers to tuck that in there, and then I can trim that off. Let's finish with some gold fever confetti, from Studio Katia, which is perfect because it shimmers and shines the same way this aura foil does. It has that iridescence to it. And that's on an A2 size card base, and look at how stunning that is. And then you'll know it's even more stunning when I finish putting the sentiment on the inside. Okay, let's use the foil plate. This is the Anemone Glimmer Blooms hot foil. I'm going to do the same thing that I did. Oh, you guys haven't seen that video yet, so never mind. I did not create a hinge. I laid down the plate, glimmer plate side up, and the shiny side of the foil to the plate, and then my cardstock on top. I'm using the 3D embossing folder, and I embossed with apricot cardstock from Fawn. I peeled this back. Isn't that stunning? Oh, with that aura foil. And it over foiled on the edges, but it doesn't matter because we're going to die cut this out. And I am so sorry, I did not zoom in on this, but I used Copic markers in YR00, 0000, and 02, so it's kind of that apricot color. I'm coloring it the same way that I did for the previous images. I did this on 120-pound cardstock so I can get a nice good blend. This cardstock is from Simon Says Stamp, and it does foil really, really nicely. And I'm going to trim down that background piece with that 3D embossing folder. That is that's the embossing folder of the month for January 2023 through Spellbinders. I do have that video coming out this week, but I'm using that for my background. So let's get this die cut first. I did show you that I did that background with the apricot cardstock. I trimmed that down to an A2 size. I am using the Brilliant White pigment ink from Honeybee Stamps and just gently rubbing over those raised areas. And when I cut this out, I centered the little arch, as you can see there, right in the center, but we're going to cover it up with this flower. Now there's the cute friend die that I need to put inside that other card. And so I want to die cut that. I also need to foil a sentiment that says hello. So I'm going to just line that up straight on my glimmer plate. Nope, my glimmer system. And then add my aura foil and then my piece of cardstock, and I can trim that out when I'm done. Now here's this cute friend die. There is the shadow piece and then the finer detail piece. I'm going to cut the shadow piece. I can't remember if I did 2 or 3 times from white cardstock. Oh, 3 times. And then the scripty part of the die, I'm going to die cut from the apricot cardstock because I want to keep it in that same apricot and white color combination. So I'm going to die cut that, pop that out, and then I can glue these together. And having those 3 glued together, those 3 white, pieces is going to give this some really, really nice dimension. You could also do it in reverse and have one shadow piece and 2 or 3 of the more scripty piece, and that would work just as well. So let's glue those together. Reverse tweezers and barely art glue is my best friend when I do this. And then I can put this in place, and it's so, so pretty. I opted to not do this in gold foil, which I usually would because, gold mirror cardstock, because the sentiment is already going to be foiled. Now, my original idea was to cover up that centerpiece, but I ended up not doing it because I just didn't love it. So I'm going to pop that up with foam tape, have it on the bottom left corner. I'm just lining up the sentiments. I want to be able to trim some of that off to add to the bottom right corner. So I'm going to do that here. So that big piece right there, I'm going to pop down here. And you still get to see that embossed and inked background, which I think is really, really nice and pretty. And then you still get to see all of the foiled flowers. So let's add a little bit more of that foam tape, a little bit of liquid glue behind the sentiment, and then some foam tape behind the hello, that little foiled hello that we used. And I can put that in place, and then we can finish this off with some of the gold fever confetti as well. And I did trim this down about a ½ an inch on all sides, and I'm adhering it to a top fold card base. So you guys let me know in the comments which color scheme was your favorite. I have to say the first one was absolutely my favorite. The second one I think is stunning, but the first one definitely has my heart because that color is my favorite color. Thank you guys so very much for stopping by and watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.